I have always been a believer of miracles. The big ones, the dramatic ones, the type you read about in novels or hear about in sermons, immediate cures, impossible events that overnight transform, events so unusual. There is no other explanation than God's intervention. I had faith in those wonders. I was hoping for them. I even said prayers for them.
But recently, Jesus Christ showed me something about miracles that completely shocked me. And when I understood what he was revealing, it changed the way I see everything. It started with a simple question I asked during a quiet moment of prayer. I was feeling discouraged, waiting for something significant to happen in my life, waiting for that breakthrough, that miracle moment that would shift everything. And in my frustration, I asked out loud, where are the miracles? Why don't I see them anymore? I wasn't expecting an answer. It was more of a complaint than a genuine question. But Jesus answered anyway, and his response wasn't what I expected at all. He said, you're surrounded by miracles every single day. You just stopped noticing them. I sat there confused. What did he mean? I looked around my room. Nothing seemed miraculous. Everything looked ordinary, normal, exactly as it had been yesterday and the day before. But Jesus continued, and his voice was gentle, almost amused. That's the problem. You're looking for the spectacular and missing the sacred. You're waiting for the dramatic and overlooking the divine. You want miracles to look a certain way, so you don't recognize them when they're happening right in front of you. I felt something shift in my chest, a recognition that maybe he was right. Maybe I had been so focused on what miracles should look like that I'd been blind to what they actually are. He said, let me show you. And suddenly I began to see things differently, not because anything changed, but because my perspective changed. Jesus directed my attention to the simplest thing, my breath. He said, you're breathing right now. Do you realize that's a miracle? I almost laughed. Breathing? That's automatic. That's biology. That's not a miracle. But he continued, your heart has been beating without you thinking about it since before you were born. Your lungs expand and contract thousands of times a day without your conscious effort. Your body heals, cuts and fights infections without you directing every single second. Millions of processes are happening inside you to keep you alive, and you call that ordinary? I stopped, really stopped, and I realized he was right. I take my body for granted. I take life itself for granted. The fact that I wake up every morning, that my eyes open, that my mind functions, that I can move and think and feel, all of that is miraculous. But I'd stopped seeing it that way because it happens every day. Jesus' voice came again, warmer now. You've been living inside a miracle and calling it normal. That's what humans do. You get used to wonder. You adapt to the extraordinary until it feels ordinary. And then you complain that miracles don't happen anymore. Tears started forming in my eyes because I understood. I've been so focused on waiting for something big that I've been blind to the countless small miracles happening constantly. He showed me more. The sunrise. He said every morning, that star you call the sun rises exactly when it should, providing light and warmth to sustain all life on this planet. It's been doing that for billions of years with perfect consistency, and you wake up, glance at it, and think nothing of it. I thought about all the sunrises I've ignored, all the times I've been too busy to notice the sky changing colors, too distracted to appreciate the gift of a new day. Jesus continued, you have people who love you. Do you realize that's a miracle? In a world of billions of people, you have specific souls who care whether you're happy or sad, whether you're safe or in danger. You have connections that defy explanation. You call it coincidence or chemistry, but it's so much more than that. Love itself is a miracle. I started crying because I realized how often I've taken my relationships for granted, how many times I've overlooked the miracle of someone caring about me, someone choosing to stay in my life, someone showing up when I need them. He wasn't finished. You wanted to see miracles. Look at a child learning to walk. Look at a seed becoming a tree. Look at the way wounds heal and hearts mend after being broken. Look at the way hope returns even after devastating loss. Look at the way people find strength they didn't know they had when life demands it of them. Each example hit me like a wave. because I'd seen all of these things and never once thought of them as miracles. I'd categorized them as nature, as time passing, as resilience, as anything but what they actually were, divine intervention happening so consistently that I'd stopped recognizing it as divine. Jesus' voice grew softer, more intimate. The truth about miracles that will shock you is this: they're not rare, they're constant, they're not saved for special occasions, they're woven into every moment of your existence. You're just not paying attention. I sat there completely undone by this revelation. All this time I'd been waiting for God to show up in my life in some dramatic way, when He's been showing up in countless small ways every single second. All this time I'd been asking for miracles while standing in the middle of. He continued, "The biggest miracle isn't when I change your circumstances, it's that I created you at all, that you exist, that consciousness arose in the universe and became you, that you can think, feel, love, choose, dream. That's the miracle. Everything else is just an extension of that original wonder." I couldn't stop crying because I'd been so ungrateful, so blind, so focused on what I didn't have that I couldn't see what I did have. Jesus spoke one more time, and His words were both challenging and comforting. You want to see miracles? Start noticing, start paying attention, start recognizing that the ordinary is anything but, because once you begin to see with new eyes, you'll realize you've never lived a single moment outside of miraculous territory. I asked Him, my voice shaking, "Why did you show me this?" His answer was immediate: "Because you needed to remember, and because others need to remember too." People are walking through life numb to the wonder surrounding them. They're so focused on what's wrong that they can't see what's right. They're so busy chasing the next thing that they're missing the current thing, and they're suffering because of it. I understood. This wasn't just about me recognizing miracles. It was about shifting my entire relationship with life itself, about moving from a posture of lack to a posture of abundance, about seeing what is instead of only focusing on what isn't. He said, when you start recognizing the miracles you're already living in, something shifts. Gratitude replaces complaint, wonder replaces boredom, appreciation replaces entitlement, and in that shift, you become more open to receiving even more. I sat there for a long time, after His presence faded, just looking around my room, with completely different eyes, the light coming through the window, the ability to see that light, the fact that photons traveled millions of miles to reach my eyes, and my brain interpreted them as color and beauty. Miraculous. The sounds I could hear, the intricate machinery of my ears, translating vibrations in the air into music, voices, meaning. Miraculous. The thoughts I could form, the ability to reflect on my own existence, to question, to wonder, to seek. Miraculous. I got up and walked to the window, and for the first time in years, I really looked at the world outside. Trees converting sunlight into energy, birds defying gravity, clouds holding millions of gallons of water suspended in the sky, children playing, their laughter carrying on the wind. All of it miraculous, all of it extraordinary, all of it easy to miss if you're not paying attention. And I realized that Jesus was right. The truth about miracles is shocking, not because they're rare, but because they're everywhere, not because they're hard to find, but because they're so abundant, we've learned to ignore them, not because God isn't performing them, but because we've stopped recognizing them as His handiwork. I want to ask you something. When was the last time you noticed a miracle? When was the last time you stopped and really appreciated the fact that you're alive, that you can feel the sun on your skin, that you can taste food, that you can hear music, that you can love and be loved? Because all of that is miraculous. Every single bit of it. We've just been trained to call it normal. Jesus Christ showed me that miracles aren't events we wait for, they're realities we live in. And once you start seeing them, once you start recognizing the divine fingerprints on every moment of your existence, your entire life transforms, not because anything changes externally, but because everything changes internally. You move from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to gratitude, from boredom to wonder, from feeling abandoned by God
to recognizing you've never been outside His miraculous care for even a second. So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, start noticing. Look for the miracles you've been overlooking. The breath in your lungs, the beating of your heart, the people who love you, the food you have to eat, the ability to think and feel and choose. Start seeing these things not as ordinary, but as what they actually are, extraordinary gifts that you've been given without earning, without deserving, without even asking. Because the truth that shocked me, the truth that Jesus wanted me to share with you, is this: you're not waiting for a miracle, you're living in one. You always have been. You just forgot to notice. And the moment you remember, the moment you start seeing with new eyes, everything changes. Not your circumstances necessarily, but your experience of those circumstances. Not what you have, but how you see what you have. Not your life, but your relationship with your life. Tell me, what miracle have you been overlooked? What ordinary thing in your life is actually extraordinary when you really look at it? Share below, because I believe when we start naming the miracles we've been missing, we train our eyes to see more of them. And maybe your words will help someone else recognize the wonder they've been walking through blind.